Hey everyone, I'm really excited to bring to you Josh Borba. Now, Josh has been a longtime friend and he's been in the reverse space for a long, long time. But what's really cool about Josh is that he still does a lot of forward business as well. And so I wanted to bring him on here as an example because I only do reverse, but that doesn't mean that you have to only do reverse. And so I'd love, Josh, if you'd kind of introduce yourself, give us a little bit of your background, and then we'll just kind of dive in.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks for having me. Um, I got into started, I guess, go all the way back to high school where I did copy packages and stuff for my dad at his mortgage company. And then went to college, graduated 2002, couldn't find a job when I got out. So went back to work for my dad as a processor, and then kind of after about 6 months decided it was time to originate. So started originating loans around 2002, 2003, and then you only did forwards up until around 2005. And right around 2005 is when we decided, hey, we need to really get into the reverse mortgage game. So from 2005, 2006 on, early on, we started and tried to push more reverse than forward. But with my dad as my partner, having been in the business for as long as he had, like all that forward business was there, so we couldn't just get rid of it. So we always kept the forward side. Um, so it's done well keeping both, and actually like the reverse is kind of what got us through that last downturn, 2008-ish. Without reverse, I don't think I'd be here speaking with you. So
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
yeah.
Well, so what was that experience like? So you started in your dad's office like I did. I was 16 too. I didn't realize that you started that young too. That's awesome. But what was that experience? So you just kind of started with forward, and then as you and your dad both at the same time learned reverse together. Is that right?
Correct.
That's my
Yeah.
path too. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. All right. So tell me about how that experience was for you.
But it was painful in the beginning. So that was back in the financial freedom days where they made everything like way more complicated than it had to be. So it literally took us probably like a year to figure out like how to actually close our first deal. Then once we closed one, it's like, oh yeah, it's not so bad. Then we kind of got the hang of it and, grew production from there.
Awesome. Awesome. So today, we're quite a few years later. How much of your business is forward? How much of your business is reverse?
So currently we're about, a third of our business is reverse. I actually I feel like I missed, like, obviously we had that last refi boom on the forward side, and that took up all our time. So I really neglected our, like, the heck'em to heck'ems and stuff. So I really missed out on a huge opportunity. But again, we had the forward opportunity, which was, 20 something years of referrals and clients. It's kind of hard not to jump on that. So we did do heck'em to heck'ems, but nowhere near what we probably could have or should have done. So
No, it's all in the mix. You can't do it
yeah.
all.
Right.
And
Exactly.
when clients are calling, you're not going to say, "Oh, sorry, I'm not going to do your loan."
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And there's only so many hours in the day. So, the 18-hour days was enough for me.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
We're seeing lots of burnout in the industry right
Yeah.
now, specifically on
Absolutely.
the forward side. So I think there's a huge opportunity for people to come to the reverse side.
Yep.
I know I've experienced a different life balance since doing reverse and incorporating that more. Have you experienced any differences or anything you want to talk
Not
about?
really. I kind of made a decision a long time ago that, I am available sometimes on, nights and weekends for some clients sometimes, but I try not to take the calls. I try when I get home to, spend time with my family and not be, get taken away from things. But, there are emergencies. But yes, those emergencies like rarely ever happen on the reverse side unless somebody's like signing, doing a late night signing. I always give everyone my cell phone number in case there's something that goes on that they have questions on. But out, and 99% of the time I never get a phone call, on the reverse side. So yeah, it's really the way I model myself is I don't really have the nights and weekends headaches. But yeah, if I was just to do the all reverse, like you say, it's definitely a lot easier, I guess, in regards to that, because the clients kind of, I don't know if they more respect your time or they just take care of business during, business hours with you.
Yeah, that's what I found is that they're available. So that's when they, if you want something on a Tuesday morning, oh, they can get it to you.
Exactly.
Okay, so comparing, contrasting, if you were to pick up the phone and answer a forward mortgage client versus a reverse mortgage client, what are some of the differences in the way you approach those two conversations?
Um, so for me, like the forward mortgage client, they're really just looking for most of the time rates and fees, and it's more, almost feels more transactional. Where the reverse side, it's mostly about education. I don't think I've ever sold a reverse mortgage. I spend all my time educating. And in fact, that's how I win like half my deals. If I get somebody who's I do some internet stuff. So a lot of the people I get are on the internet and they've talked to a lot of people already. But the way that I actually earn their business is like, I think it's through my knowledge, like knowing enough to answer all their questions or correct some misconceptions that other people have told them. It really definitely helps, like, seal the deal.
So the misconceptions that other people have told them, are you seeing people that have come from the forward side? Excuse me, are you seeing people who come from another mortgage person with wrong information about reverse? Or
Right.
just like out from the marketplace, like my aunt said it was terrible?
Well, it's a little from the marketplace, but I do get a lot when I'm up head to head with another mortgage company. A lot of times that other loan officer isn't telling correct information. Um, so it's kind of fixing and correcting some of that information, and some of that information that they're giving is way better than what I'm telling them. But at the end of the day, the product's a product, and it is what it is. So it's they're like, well, I'm going to go with that person because this is what they told me. I said, well, fantastic. I won't like hold it against you if you come back to me once you figure out that what they told you is wrong. And I've actually had people who come back to me and said, hey, you're right. That person told me incorrectly, and I'd like to work with somebody who knows what they're doing. So yeah, it's happened.
Nice. Yeah, I think in reverse it happens more than anywhere else.
Right.
And I
Yeah,
feel like they resent that loan officer who told them the wrong thing so much more.
exactly. But it's not, I mean, a lot of people are proud too, and they don't want to like come to you and admit that they're wrong. So I know there's probably some that I've lost, but that other loan officer probably didn't get the deal either. They just, were
True.
embarrassed to come back to me.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that does happen.
yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. All
Yep.
right. So, gosh, there's so much to talk about. Anything you really want to share about your experience, doing forward and reverse, and any advice for loan officers who are looking to continue to do both?
Sure. So like so a long time ago, I was like, I'm going to go all reverse after there was this time where I closed two loans the exact same day. One was a forward, one was a reverse. The forward, I gave the best deal I've ever given anybody in my life. I probably wouldn't have given my mom that deal. And then the reverse was one out of Florida. Florida, I don't know if you do loans in Florida or not, but it's a little higher, more expensive just with the state taxes and tangible tax, all the stuff. One of the most expensive in closing cost wise for any loan that I've ever closed. The forward mortgage person was just like, thought I ripped him off and didn't give him a great deal and was just mad at me for some reason, like they didn't get a great deal. This other person whose costs were just through the roof, like I don't say through the roof, but just much higher just because the reverse and all the, upfront mortgage insurance, all the stuff, were so happy. It was just the difference there was just amazing to me. I was like, yeah, these guys they're so nice to me. They're so happy and just so blessed that they were able to get this, and this loan is going to change their life. So, it's definitely a different clientele. Like I prefer working with the seniors, slower pace. But yeah, I mean, like the advice that I would probably give though, like doing side by side is the education piece. Like know what you're talking about, and I know with what you're doing with the training is huge because it's bringing a lot more people into the market that are actually going to know what they're talking about. I'd rather go head to head with somebody who knows what they're talking about than somebody who's just passing on a lot of bad information. Because if somebody gives that bad information out, then that person may not ever do a reverse mortgage. And even though it's probably the right fit for them or could be the right fit for them, if they got wrong information first, that turned them off to it, they may never explore it again and end up, not retiring comfortably.
Oh, I totally level with you on that. I can't tell you. There's like, as you're talking, I'm hearing like four different past clients that were educated wrong.
Right.
And for example, some loan officer gave the client the PLF percentage. The guy was tied to 54%, but rates had changed. So it was no longer 54%. And that was one of the hardest files to get through because he had all this wrong information. And every step of the way, he's fighting us because somebody primed him with completely wrong info.
Right.
And we had to say, okay, well, it was 54%. Now it's no longer 54%. And there's costs in that. And so, yeah, I totally resonate with that one.
Right. And those PLS right now have been the hardest thing with rates going up, trying to sell it. It almost makes you feel like you're I don't want to say like a sleazy salesman, but like when you're trying to explain something to someone, it's like, hey, time is of the essence because next week these numbers are going to be different. And it's, people feel like you're kind of pushing them into it. And I've never actually pushed anybody into it, but it's like, hey, if this is going to be, if you think this is right for you, we should probably let's get to your application. And then so we can kind of look at locking in your principal limits and stuff. But
yeah, I'm feeling the same. I think in reverse, we've been a little bit spoiled in that our rates haven't been volatile for a long time. And
Right.
so, the common thing is don't rush seniors, do not
Yep.
push them, just educate them and then let them make their decision. But I've had clients where the swing is huge. I just had one, and we've all been through the changes in the proprietary. So there was no preventing that. But it's hard conversations to have. Hey, I know you're in process and you thought you were going to get this loan, but actually things changed. And so now this is what your loan looks like.
Right.
Did you have some fallout from that too?
We did actually. I'm closing one tomorrow. Actually, that was the new FAR changes. They went from like, I think I initially quoted them like 6.5, and they were going to get $60,000. They ended up closing at 899, and they're only getting 22 or something. So it's like, it's really hard to make. First, you get that first sale, and you're like, you finally got to move them forward, and then it's like, oh, now I have to sell them again. So
Yeah. 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 We had one where the numbers just don't work. He was going to get
yeah,
30,000. The changes all happened. And now he has to bring in 40,000. And it
yep,
just doesn't make sense.
yeah. We had actually. I'm sure you did it too. Like for the last like month and a half, it's like the entire pipeline made more sense to go proprietary in terms of like proceeds.
Oh
So
my gosh.
we had a whole lot of proprietary quotes out that we had to make a lot of phone calls. It's not there anymore.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yep.
so
So on that note, do you have a special way you explain we're not able to lock your rate?
yeah, I mean, there's nothing special about it. It's just like, it is what it is. Reverse mortgage rates float until we close,
Yeah.
and the principal limit, the amount of proceeds available to you could change, based on a few factors, depending on what happens with your appraisal when it comes in and the interest rates at the time that we close. So I don't get fancy about it. I don't know if I'm sure there's a more eloquent way to do it, but I'm just kind of,
We're
this is
all
it.
just
It
trying to
is what
make
it
it
is. Yeah,
happen.
right.
Well, so okay, but with you, it sounds like because you are so consultative and an advisory role, do they handle that bad news or the change of circumstances? Do they handle that better, do you think, with you and stay with you because you didn't sell them to begin with?
Well, I think that, and I do also prep them in advance. I let them know that their changes could happen. Ideally, if we can get this thing closed as fast as possible, we'll hopefully get done before these changes take place. But I let people know where the market's at, what's happening. Um, so I think giving them that information up front in full disclosure, I think it preps them, and they know that when something does happen, they're a little bit more receptive to it. Not that they're happy. I mean, the people I'm closing tomorrow, they're not super stoked, but it's taking care of what they needed. They're getting rid of their mortgage and paying off an auto, which is going to put them in it's going to swing their monthly output by like $2,200 or something a month, or 2,500. I forget what the number was, but it changes their month to month, cash flow. And so not super happy, but it means to an end, and they are happy that they're, eliminating that debt, but just not how they were hoping to.
Well, and you're touching on something big, because if you were just doing a refinance for a regular mortgage and these changes would have happened, the goal is the interest rate savings for most refinances. But in reverse, that's not our goal. And so it makes these changes, the goal is still improve the cash flow.
Right.
Right. So they're hanging with you, even though these big, I mean, right now, these are the hardest conversations I've had to have with some of my clients. And they're still staying because the goal isn't just the interest rate.
Yeah.
And the way the program works, or the proceeds, it's not just the cash out, right? We're making the mortgage payment go away. And in the case you just explained, you're making the auto payment go away. You're
Right.
improving their budget by $2,200 a month. That's huge.
Yep. Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
for
when you
that,
consider. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
well, for that point, I mean, that sells itself. I mean, for a loan officer to be able to make it through those changes and keep the client, whew.
Right. Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I don't know. I forget.
No
Short-term memory.
worries. No worries. All right. So I would love to hear your like most memorable reverse mortgage, whether it was a positive or a negative or whatever. I just love hearing reverse mortgage stories.
I'd say one of them. I had a lady out in Oakland who she had no she so there was an issue with like the water and the sewer and everything to her house.
Okay.
So the city said like, hey, we stop here at the sidewalk. So she wasn't able. It was going to cost her like 40 or 50 grand to go from like the sidewalk to her house to fix all the problems. So she had no running water, and her sewer wasn't working correctly. So she was going to the neighbors every day to use the restroom and get water and like fill up these big jugs. So like getting the reverse mortgage, we were able to get in there and we found a contractor to go in and do the work ahead of time. So we get in the appraisal and it was done, and then we reimbursed the contractor at closing. Lady says running water, I've done 2 heckam to heckams for her since. Yeah, the value's gone up and the lending limits have gone up. But that was amazing. Like, just to see her be able to like actually live in her home comfortably with and have water. Imagine that.
Oh my
So
gosh, that's intense.
yeah,
How long was she living like that for?
2 to 3 years. Like she was,
Years.
yeah, she was scraping by like to try to get enough money to do it. She couldn't get the
Oh.
city to help her, and she couldn't find any programs to to help finance it. So
But reverse mortgages are bad, right?
right.
Gosh. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh. Oh, I've had some doozies, but never someone without water and sewage for that
yeah,
long.
yeah.
That issue between I mean, that's common. I've had past clients on the real estate side a long time ago where that issue where the city pays till the sidewalk and then
Hmm.
there's a gap. The
Right.
insurance doesn't cover it until it hits a certain point in your house. And that is just devastating.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's actually a pretty good reason for somebody to have a reverse mortgage line of credit.
exactly.
Save yourself that. Already have it set up, pull the money.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, very, very cool. Um, all right, so a couple other questions. How does your forward business play into your reverse business, or your reverse business play into your forward business? Do they, do you get referrals? Do you have cross connections? Do you compare forward and reverse often? How does that all work for you?
So it doesn't always happen where we compare, when somebody who's age qualified, sometimes we'll bring it up if they're age qualified. Kind of depends on the overall situation, but it's like, hey, what you want to explore a reverse mortgage? Most people will come to us for a traditional forward mortgage. When we, mention reverse, like, oh no, this is what we're interested in. And the same thing with the reverse mortgage people, like when they come in, they're pretty much just set on the reverse. I did have one reverse come in that we ended up just turning into like a VA refi, just because he had income coming in. It just made more sense for him to go that route. Um, so yeah, hit and miss. Like, but it is nice to be able to have that ability to. I know there's these companies out there. I know, well, you say you do reverse only, but you also, the company you're at, I'm sure, does forward. So if it makes sense for somebody to do a forward, you're going to send them that direction. But there's other companies I know that like, we only do reverse, we only do reverse, we only do reverse. And it's like, well, how do you know that you're not steering this person to the wrong loan? So I think to be able to offer it all, we're kind of making sure that we do what's right for the borrower.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a broker at heart. I know you are as well.
Yeah.
And that my forward base helps me spot that when that isn't the right fit. Now, I
Right.
don't do the forward loans myself anymore, but I still know a lot about them. And I can see,
Right.
okay, this is actually going to be a better fit over here. But I
Right.
think that that's really important in that you have the opportunity to bring it up to clients because you are so knowledgeable. And
Right.
people coming in for the forward, I mean, somebody who's 70, they want to save a little in their budget or maybe a lot, but they just don't understand reverse. And they're coming to you for a forward, and you can clearly see this is not going to be a right solution for them. Do you bring that up and then say, hey, there is this option? And what's the reaction? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, no, we bring it up and just have the discussion. But like I said, it's generally the loan that they apply for is usually the loan that they got their mindset on, and it's rare that I've actually seen somebody change from
Ah,
what they came on. And like I know when we do like our marketing pieces too, like our websites are kind of targeted specifically to either reverse or forward. So they're either coming in off of one website or the other, and it's like they've already a lot of people have done a lot of the research and kind of, like I said, know which direction they want. So.
you touched on something I preach. Now, why do you have a separate website for forward and a separate website for reverse?
That's a good question. Initially, it was for search engine optimization stuff, just to, because and I'm guilty right now that I haven't done a lot of updating on my website in a few years. But I used to have it's there's a lot of information on it still, but it used to be super robust and updated like multiple times a week with additional content and all that stuff. And it's important because just there's so much stuff that happens and changes, and so many technical things about the reverse that it's important to kind of get that information out there. So having a site that's just dedicated specifically to that kind of, I think it's important just because the people who are going to there are stuck there, or they stay there and then go through and look at all the, generally read all the articles and stuff and do all their education on that page. My new website that I'm probably going to rebuild is going to probably combine it all, but it'll be kind of subsection, like, I don't know what the right term is, a sub web page, of where it's like this section's all reverse, this section's all, VA, all of it,
Okay.
but where it dives in and does all the information and guides and all that stuff really robustly, but still all housed within one.
Okay.
So,
I'll be interested to follow up with you to see what the impact is of having one versus two. Because
right.
I've always been a proprietor. Excuse me. I've had a long day of being on recordings all day. I've always been a fan of having just a reverse site, because I believe that the clients don't think a regular mortgage person can do their reverse. And so having yourself positioned as, yes, I do reverse and I do it enough to have this website, or in your case, this full built out section. It's not just, hey, we have reverse mortgages too.
Right. Which is what most forward people do. There's usually just one little quick blurb and it's like 2 paragraphs about it. So,
yep. And for the client reading that, what do you think their impression is?
Right. Well, there's not much there. So, it could be the view. A lot of people could be like, hey, keep it short and sweet to get people to actually like reach out to us to get the information. But for me, I prefer to get it all out there and offer everything up. So, people.
I found the same. I think seniors are a little reticent to give up their info. And so if they can't establish that you're credible to begin with, they're not going to send information in. They can go to somebody else's website. They can go to your website and read all about it for free without giving contact info.
Yep.
Of course, everybody wants the contact info because we have to do custom analysis, right? General information does not work in reverse.
Right.
Of course, you can talk about how the loan works, but somebody trying to get to their actual numbers, you have to have a consultation. You have to have an advisor for that. But if you're not positioned well, it doesn't look like you're really going to be that advisor.
Exactly.
The other thing about the online site is I think people expect leads to just pour in. And I think in reverse, it's more of a validation piece. It's like an online source where they can see that you exist and you're credible, and hopefully read all about how much you do reverse and how much you know about reverse and sharing all the details. But actually sending contact info with no credibility, or if somebody doesn't have a website at all, if their website doesn't talk about reverse at all. No. You've had a lot of success online with the way you run your business, right?
I have, yeah. Earlier on, like when I was really active, so I ran into the problem of like, I built my website, put a ton of content out there, got it found, with all my SEO stuff, and then got all the clients coming in. And then it's like, shoot, I got overwhelmed by all the calls and stuff. And then just kind of like, it just became the cycle of like, where I just got tired of like, oh man, I can't stay up every night till 3:00 doing like the SEO stuff and then take all the calls during the day. It's like when the calls started coming in, I'm like, God, I don't even want to talk to these people. I just want to finish my website, So it was kind of, I messed up. If I go back in time, I would have hired somebody to take over the website and take that off my plate and then continue growing it. Because I know right now I see like one of the guys I used to compete with, we were pretty much like every borrower I talked to for like a 2 to 3 year period had talked to me or him. And it was because both of our websites have been number 1 and 2 on Google for all those years. He got smart. He hired somebody, and his website's still near the top. I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. So, but I mean, at one point in time, I was generating over 100 leads a month off it.
Wow. See, and that's good problems to have, man.
Yeah, but a lot of more states I wasn't in. So and then I'm like, okay, I got to start registering my company. So I had my company registered like all over everywhere. And it was just like, yeah, this is then becoming the burden of like dealing with all that licensing stuff. So I eventually like pulled us back into, we were in like 6 states up until recently. Now we're in 8. But
nice. What states are you in?
So we got the West Coast, so California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Colorado, actually Montana we just added, Texas, and Florida.
Nice. No, those are kind of the big reverse ones.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're located in California, right?
We are. Yeah, we're located in California. We have a branch up in Oregon and kind of another branch in Idaho, but it's not really, it's just a loan officer's home, but you have to call it a branch just based on the licensing guidelines. So
yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing your experience. Gosh, I have so many things I could ask. Is there anything you want to direct the conversation to? Anything you think the audience should know, or new loan officer trying to do both, trying to copy what you've done? do both effectively?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, get to like the education part is the key. Get the basics down, and then build on that. Like, never tell somebody the wrong thing. Like, if they have a question you don't know the answer to, say, that's a fantastic question, I will get back to you as soon as possible. Don't throw out some nonsense. Just give them, because people will respect that. You say, that's a great question, I'll get back to you with the answer like today or tomorrow. And they appreciate that. It's not, people don't need the answer like right now. They just want the right answer.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just there's so many guidelines. And so learn like the things that kind of get you hung up too, like the like California, like the 7-day wait rule and counseling, like just the little things like that, like the
little big things.
Little big things, yes. So
yeah, there's a lot. There's so many little things that are absolute deal killers. They're big things.
yeah.
So in that, sometimes I hear from a forward loan officer, oh, I'm learning on the job, meaning
Right.
they told somebody they could do their reverse mortgage without actually knowing what they're doing, and they're trying to learn it through the process, which I've done that on different types of loans, never on reverse.
Right.
So when you say you set out to learn reverse, what are some of the steps that you took, and did you actually learn on a file, or did you wait on the file and then do it once you actually had some knowledge under your belt?
Well, like when we first started, we did like the financial freedom training and stuff, and kind of learned it. But then honestly, the real education came through like running some files. Like nowadays, there's way more resources out there. Like any of these wholesalers have, there's all kinds of training. Like we brought on a couple new loan officers, and we're just giving them like, go take all the reverse mortgage 101 with all these guys, and do the software training, all this stuff. And then once you get kind of the baseline from these courses, come with me, and then we're going to sit down and walk through and learn all this, run some scenarios. And so what I'll do is I bring them into my office, and we run reverse vision or quantum, depending on where they're at, and then just run all the scenarios, kind of go through like, hey, the borrower wants to do this, how are we going to how do we make that happen? Or and just so they understand kind of the process of it. But I think on the job training, for some people is kind of has to happen because they don't necessarily have the in-house resources. Some of our other loan officers are kind of doing the on-the-job training, but I'm just there shadowing them. So it's
you're
like
mentoring them, really,
right.
which is, I'm a huge advocate for that, because
right.
you're not letting them risk that senior's retirement because
right.
they need to learn. They need to learn hand in hand with somebody who knows and is going to protect that client. So
right.
that's huge. I mean, that you're already doing that with your loan officers and the mentoring and everything. I totally respect that and appreciate that's part of your practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does get difficult to learn. You need both, right? And so in all my coaching stuff, I try to help people bring in the leads at the same time they're learning how to do it. Because then once you get one loan and you've got base knowledge, well, then you actually put that into practice hand in hand with a mentor, and you make sure that you do well by the client and you learn it.
Right.
But I've got a couple of guys out there that are just like, oh, I'm learning it as I'm going. I'm like,
right.
with who? Well, I just own my own shop, so it's just me. And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
I'll be there for you. Come coach with me.
yeah. And that's tricky too, because like some of the wholesalers don't have the time like they used to be able to kind of hold your hand and walk you through it. The
AEs are not their job.
Yeah.
There's so much to this loan. It is, they just, unless one AE is going to spend a week with you, which they're not, you're not their only client. The AEs, I think, are in a really tough position because they're being looked at for help. But that's not really their job to hold your hand the entire time. That's their job to help on the hard stuff and get your files through and answer basic questions or really hard questions, not educate you from start to finish.
Right. So when you mentor, are you like somebody signs up with you as a client, they get a new loan, you're helping them structure it and walk them through it? Is that kind of your process?
Hand in hand. Yeah. So we do both. My private coaching clients, they get to have me like full access. So we have texting, we have calls, and of course we have certain boundaries, but for the most part, I become the AE that they were looking to build that relationship with, that I can actually focus on the files and the learning and the growing of the business all together so that it moves forward faster. Which I'm sure is what you're doing with your loan officers.
I am, but it is nice to have somebody else doing that too. It's
Yeah, a
it's
lot of
an
the
invaluable service.
a lot of the companies just don't have someone knowledgeable enough to do this.
Right.
And that's why I saw the gap in the market. And actually I was being hounded by the gap in the market.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, guys, I can't do this anymore for free. I've got to figure out how to make this work for everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty excited to bring this to the market. Honestly, like, rather than having to go work for some big company where there is a full blown training department and mentoring program, now this is available to anyone. And even if you're at one of those big companies, you can still sharpen your own skills and get better at your craft by a private coach rather than trying to use the resources that may or may not be available at the companies.
Right.
But this wasn't about me.
No, but I was
No,
curious.
it's a needed thing in this
Yeah,
space, and I really
definitely.
appreciate company owners like you who have that built in. Interesting fact: when we sign up with NMLS as a member, there's actually an ethics piece that says that if we're doing reverses, there's a minimum ethical competency. There's some sort of competency that you're enforcing. And so in your business, you're doing that. You're having them go through the courses, but the courses are topical. So they don't
They are.
tie it all together. They don't show you how to actually do the thing. They just teach you about it. And
Exactly.
so they need somebody like you or I to say, okay, great, you've got that knowledge. Now let's
Mm.
tie it all together and actually get you some business closed, some business
Right.
in and some business closed.
Yep.
Very cool. All right. Well, I think we're about on time right now. I have so many questions, but I think we'll probably tie it up now. Yeah. Is there anything else that you think we should talk about on here?
I think I'm good with what I got to cover.
All right. Well, I really
Yeah.
appreciate your time today, and I really appreciate you being an example of that you can do both. It takes a little extra work. You have to dive in and invest in your knowledge and hopefully not have 18-hour days.
Right.
Hopefully people are listening to you and doing the website by hiring somebody, not doing it themselves. But yeah,
Exactly.
it can be done. And I really appreciate you coming on here today.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate your time too. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, Josh. Have a good
All
day.
right. You too.
Thanks.